In a world where drama has become the new drug in modern entertainment, betrayals are probably the most highly demanded source of intoxication. Come on, don't lie to me. You know you like getting shook over an unexpected switching of sides.
I'm a f***ing Shelby. So am I.
Of course, the TV region doesn't judge, so I'm here to feed your addictions with the top 25 betrayals across films and TV.
Good old Uncle Charlie.
You are not eight.
Well, we're kicking off this list with a pretty tragic betrayal, but it also gave way to one of the best villains ever made in the 2010s era. It's none other than Koba, who was at one point a trusted friend of Caesar. Heck, if their relationship continued to grow at a healthy pace, I would have probably called them brothers as well. I mean, the dude literally helped Caesar save his own son. I mean, this is some mafia level love, right? However, his hatred for humans ended up taking over his love for Caesar and eventually his own species as well. Sure, Koba was a victim of human torture, but he needed to have a long-term vision in order to understand why Caesar was still helping out the human survivors. After all, he was saved by Caesar in the first place, wasn't he? This is exactly why him turning over to the dark side, attempting to end Caesar and taking the lives of multiple humans and apes became one of the highlights of the Planet of the Apes franchise. I swear, if this dude had to be such a traitor, then they should have just named him Brutus instead. You know, like Et tu Brute in William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar? They still teach that kind of stuff in school, right?
Somewhere just kill us already. What? They're animals. It's gonna slaughter us.
I did not start this war. The ape who did, his name was Koba. I killed him.
お主には切腹が申し付けられた。受け取りがない。大老衆からの命、しかと熟考を重ね、ご返事つかまつる。
Man, whatever happened to the line, bros before, certain people that you know who I'm talking about. In this case, the bro is pretty much the same or even worse than said people. Shogun is a show that has made waves all over the world for being an amazing portrayal of family politics and human nature in the face of power. It's got the same vibes as Game of Thrones back when it used to be good, and I sure hope its success doesn't lead to any unnecessary woke spin-offs. Anyway, the betrayal to be spoken about over here is when Lord Toranaga learns about his brother's betrayal right in front of a live audience. Seiki really messed it up with the way he changed the entire mood of the gathering, because before his revelation, those dudes were just having fun talking about women and battles. To make such a dramatic turn on your own people despite describing yourself as a man of honor is pretty hypocritical if you ask me. Well, it's kind of funny how a dude who literally lives in the shadows of the greatest detective in the world had no idea that his wife used to be a deadly assassin. John Watson did always come across as a schmuck if you look at his general vibe, but man, his wife sure knew how to make things interesting. It was the investigation of Charles Augustus Magnuson, aka Cam, that eventually led Sherlock and John down this rabbit hole. But it was obviously Sherlock who found out the truth first. I was really hoping to see Moriarty here, but I guess the betrayal aspect adds some shock value to the reveal. Now, she doesn't kill Sherlock on purpose, which means that she did care enough to keep him alive, but the problem is that she only did it so that John wouldn't be falsely charged with the murder of Augustus as well as Sherlock. And on top of that, she was living a lie the entire time right in front of her stupid husband. Hiding your true identity as an assassin doesn't exactly scream trustworthy wife now, does it? Man.
It's pouring. I'm crying.
Sherlock! We're losing you! Sherlock!
Come on, Sherlock.
Jorge! Come on, man! Shoot the gringos! What's that? Shoot the gringos! Shoot the gringos! No!
People don't really talk about American Made at all, which is a real shame because that movie touched on some serious issues in the American political and legal system. Anyway, the focus here is on the betrayals, and this one is a bit of a double slam. First of all, we have Tom Cruise's Barry Seal setting up Pablo Escobar and his men for selling drugs by casually getting their pictures clicked while they prepare a consignment. It's a pretty smooth and outrageous way to betray the biggest drug lord in the world, but hey, it did work out, so Seal was a genius for being able to pull it off. Also, what's with the casting choices when it comes to Escobar? It's like they put a random 70s moustache on a Latino and go like, ah, now that's the spitting image of Pablo. While this betrayal was a pretty epic one that would go on to shake the world, the actual shocker comes when the CIA decides to use this evidence against Seal by prominently featuring him in the photos they reveal to the world. It's a pretty shady move and reeks of dishonor, but guess the White House wouldn't know anything about that now, would they?
I'm gonna rip the bark right off of you, boy. We are gonna put you in a 4x6 cell for the rest of your life.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Miss Sabota, I have Governor Clinton on the line.
You remember how John Hammond would keep flexing how he spared no expense when it came to the building of Jurassic Park? Well, it turns out that he was an even bigger liar than Drake, because the dude was literally underpaying his employees to the point where they ended up trying to sabotage the whole IP of the park. Dennis Nedry was a crucial cog of the security system, which I'm sure we can all agree would be an extremely important one in a park filled with freaking dinosaurs. The fact that Hammond didn't pay him in what he was asking for will always go beyond my understanding, because how much was he really asking for? A couple of extra $1,000 per month. I mean, that's not so bad, right? Instead of just listening to his valuable employee, Hammond simply said that Nedry's financial problems are not his own problems, and that's when he gets the classic betrayal that actually sets off all the dangerous plot points of the whole movie. Nedry was going to sell off all the embryos to Johnson's company, and shutting off the security alarm was a really jerk move, but hey, I guess bro wanted to eat as many cheeseburgers as he could get his hands on. He does meet a fitting end when the Dilophosaurus eats him up while also ensuring the embryos never make it out of the park. However, let this serve as a reminder, all you aspiring CEOs and HR managers, pay your employees well, unless you want your office to be overrun with bloodthirsty dinosaurs.
Can't see us if we don't move. Use it. They are not all accounted for. The lost seeing stones. Riders in black. They've reached the Shire.
You can't really have a TV Regent list without a bunch of classics in it, which is why Lord of the Rings finds its way here. Of course, the betrayal of Saruman the Wise is good enough in itself to enter my top 20, and this scene with Gandalf was a nice display of character development for him, even though he becomes a villain. It's not without absolute reason though. For starters, I like how his own personal room in the tower looks tattered and disorganized. It makes me think that Saruman really did try researching and looking into each and every solution, tactic, and method to defeat Sauron through logic and knowledge, but found nothing. He was too rational to consider hope, bravery, unpredictability, and cunning ploys as advantages, and instead focused on numbers, power, and might. Almost like a mad scientist trying to solve an equation, he gave up and refused to let anyone else solve it either.
Not know pain, you do not know fear. You will taste man flesh!
Hello, James.
How did the MI6 screening miss that your parents were Leon's Cossacks?
Mine survived the British betrayal and Stalin's execution squads. Oh, by the way, I did think of asking you to join my little scheme. Closing time, James. Last call.
007 is known for being a dedicated spy whose loyalty only sticks to his missions, but even then, he should have probably given some more thought before making Alec his bestie back when they used to work together. The shocking reveal of Alec being the head of the Janus crime syndicate was something even James Bond would never have imagined, and the little dialogue they have over here is pretty much all the exposition you need to understand why Alec went rogue. Of course, there's also my theory that he didn't like how 007 became a catchy title rather than his own 006. Then again, I think avenging the betrayal of his own parents, which drove them both to to their tragic demise was a more plausible reason. Anyway, Pierce Brosnan wasn't having any of it, which is pretty much how he should be operating as a spy, but it was too late for him as he got tranquilized before he could finish off his frenemy. On a side note, I don't know what Hollywood has against Sean Bean. Bro's always find himself dead at the end of all of his roles. Even here, he faked his own death in the beginning only to actually die at the end of the film anyway.
Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
How do you mean?
Rumors about something being dug up on the moon. I find them difficult to put out of my mind.
I've mentioned this classic multiple times in my videos, but this is the first time I'm actually covering an entry on it. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey has been widely regarded as the best sci-fi film of all time and consistently finds itself at the top of all-time movie lists as well. One of the many reasons for this is his portrayal of AI all the way back in 1968. Yes, like 56 years ago. HAL made for the perfect villain and was the first proper portrayal of AI going rogue. The silent murder of astronaut Frank Paul remains one of the most horrifying scenes of all time, and the sequence where David Bowman demands HAL to open the pod bay doors is so iconic that Apple programmed a funny response into Siri based on the same conversation.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
We want in this house.
What the f does that mean? I'm a Shelby.
So am I.
Okay, so I know that Finn isn't exactly too much of a major character on Peaky Blinders, but damn, his betrayal to the Shelbys only went on to further prove that he's as useless when they come to the gangster lifestyle. Like seriously, why the heck did you stand up so much for Billy? This is the same man who used the information you gave him to foil the plan to assassinate Oswald. Each and every one of the Peaky Blinders seasons before that would end with some genius plan by Tom to gain victory, but season 5 was such an oddball because of Finn's stupidity. It's kind of reflective of how he himself is the oddball of the Shelby family as well. And fine, even if you're stupid enough to spill the beans to a spy, why did you still point the gun at a fellow Shelby when the truth was presented to you? This is a clear case of ego overtaking values, and there's no place for that when you deal with Thomas Shelby. Come on, Finn, you can't just turn your back on family like that. What would Vin Diesel say? Even he wouldn't have cast you by order of the Peaky freaking Blinders.
Good old Uncle Charlie.
Harry Potter. Severus?
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Your arm, Harry.
To be honest with you, I think that Alistair Moody is the creepiest good guy I've ever seen in a movie. Well, I know that he's shown to be a traitor here, but it's actually just Barty Couch Jr. in disguise, acting under Voldemort's commands. Even so, our first interaction with the character is made out to be a shady one, and I think we're all familiar with the saying, the first impression is the last impression. Every single time I look at Moody now, I think that he's still the same villainous character from the movie, and I can't quite shake it out of my head. The particular moment where he was going to attack Harry Potter was really deadly, and I personally thought, ha, I knew it. But then Dumbledore and co found out the truth soon after, because basically the traitor was a loyalist in disguise, but it still counts because the film does get you thinking that Mad-Eye Moody is the main antagonist of Goblet of Fire. Also, why the heck is Dumbledore so angry in this film? There's no calmness at all, despite the readers of the book saying he's supposed to be super chill here.
I said pick it up! Get up! Get up! That's better.
Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
Scream was an extremely refreshing take on the horror film genre because it was essentially a serious parody of such movies and ended up becoming a whole subgenre in itself. Now, when it comes to the actual killer in Scream, we find out that it was basically a double deal, as both Billy and Stu were the ones responsible for the murders. What's really shocking is the fact that Billy was ready to take the life of his own girlfriend, Sydney. Come on, man. You should know that she's got Final Girl written all over her, but I guess serial killers don't really pay attention to such tropes, do they? The actual revelation came at such a perfectly timed moment because it totally enhanced Billy's true identity, even though he was actually apprehended before on suspicion of the same thing. Also, I feel that Bro may have been a little mad that his girl wasn't really giving him any action. All those intrusive thoughts finally culminated into something a lot more dangerous. I guess they weren't lying when they said the key to a man's happiness is a full stomach along with an empty sack. I'm not the only one saying it. Go watch the OG Scary Movie and you'll know how many people share the exact same sentiment.
Guess we won't be needing this anymore.
And oh, look at this. Ring, ring.
Kills you and shoots himself in the head.
Squid Game really did serve as the trigger for Korean content to go viral all over the world. Yeah, I know K-pop's a thing, but I'm talking about serious stories and captivating plots. Sang-woo never really showed himself as a character you'd want to sympathize with because he did always consider his own intentions above everyone else. Ali, on the other hand, was always portrayed as the nice guy who's ever ready to help out whoever he could. All of that changed in episode 6 when Sang-woo ended up stabbing Ali in the back, or in this case, having Ali shot in the back. The marble game was a brilliant way to showcase the true nature of human beings and what they do when presented with difficult choices. Sure, it's our natural instinct to fight for survival, but the way Sang-woo totally manipulates Ali to save his own life was so diabolical that even Butcher wouldn't approve of such a shady tactic. Of course, it did make for excellent television, especially during a time when the world was still trying to recover from lockdowns and other restrictions. Can't wait to see what season 2 is going to present to us.
You're all assholes.
Very, very good.
If there's one thing this film has taught me, it's that you should never become a criminal, cop, or an undercover cop. The way Reservoir Dogs is written with so much tact that it all boils down to this Mexican standoff is exactly why Quentin Tarantino is respected so much as a filmmaker and screenwriter. Having Mr. Orange confess the truth that he's a cop to Mr. White was probably one of the most heartbreaking moments in any gangster film. These people are criminals who don't care as much for human lives, so technically, we all should be rooting for Mr. Orange. However, when we all learn the truth, he turns out to be the shadiest character out of all the goons. I can't even imagine what must have been going on in Mr. White's head the moment he heard, "I'm a cop, Larry." He must have gotten so messed up about killing the Cabot, and the crying really drives that point further. He knew he wasn't going to spare Mr. Orange for what he'd done, even if that meant being shot down by all those cops moments after. The smartest man here was undoubtedly Mr. Pink, who simply hid during the shootout and then ran away with the diamonds. He had his priorities straight. Okay, so this is the culmination of scenes from 2 episodes because Tyrion is really made to suffer badly here. Shay was never really considered to be a highlight character because she was a professional after all. Even so, the relationship between her and Tyrion was a bit of beauty in the middle of the madness of Game of Thrones. However, all of that changed when she openly exposed Tyrion in court. It led him to change his character from fun and hilarious to somber and depressing. This was the real loss that Game of Thrones fans suffered from the incident. And if that wasn't bad enough, Bro caught Shay cheating on him with his own father after that. The worst part was hearing Shay refer to Tywin as her lion, which was the exact same thing she used to say to Tyrion. It's such a tragic ending to a relationship that people actually wanted to root for her. In the end, it was only Jaime who showed any kind of affection towards Tyrion, which once again brings me back to the saying, bros before Shay. However, in this case, it was more like bros before dads, although that actually sounds like the title of a very questionable Alabama movie.
But you sentenced me all the same.
Enough. We'll go back to my chambers and speak with some dignity.
I can't go back there.
You
Afraid of a dead horse?
Damn, I can't believe how I forgot to mention Ash from 1979's Alien when I mentioned how HAL inspired so many AI villains back in the Space Odyssey entry. Anyway, here's Ash, who turned out to be not only an imposter. Now, I know that you may be creeped out by milky substances that just keep coming out of the alien androids, but that's just because of Ridley Scott trying to use the concept of motherhood and birth as themes in the film. Anyway, this revelation was also a super big shocker, even though Ash was always shown to be an indifferent character. The fact that he was actually just an android operating on a specific set of instructions ties in perfectly with the nature of how AI can become a huge threat to mankind if it increases its dependence on this tech. The way Ash was about to end Ripley was also pretty scary and added a lot to the horror vibe of the film. Yeah, you know what? Alien is just as much of a horror film as it is a sci-fi film.
Get her up! Get her up! Get her up! Get her up! Get her up!
Lord Eddard Stark is herein named Protector of the Realm.
Your shield, Lord Stark. A piece of paper.
Yes, this is the best way to kick off my top 10 because we've got peak Game of Thrones once again, and that too with one of the most impactful betrayals of the entire show. Ned Stark really got the wrong end of the bargain when he tried to get Littlefinger on his side. He did warn him that he can't be trusted, and this statement is proven true when he betrays Ned for Cersei after he tries to expose her for having Alabama kids with Jaime. The revelation comes at the worst possible time, with Ned getting apprehended right when he thought he was going to become the big boss of the whole show. However, he got fingered the wrong way and ended up dead in typical Sean Bean fashion. See, I wasn't joking when I said that in the GoldenEye entry. But yeah, it was this backstabbing that totally shocked the world, because never would you have imagined that such a highly promoted character would get killed off in the very first season of a show.
I
did warn you not to trust me.
Well, this wasn't a betrayal against anyone in particular, but rather to Gotham City as a whole. Harvey Dent really went from good boy politician to bad boy villain in the space of one explosion and one dead girlfriend. Yeah, it's tragic to have half your face melted off and also to lose someone you love, but that doesn't mean you side with the Joker and go around terrorizing innocent people. Like, why did you have to go after Gordon's family to try and make a point about losing Rachel? It's really messed up, especially if this is how he actually thought of the world deep down inside his heart. Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face could also be seen as a betrayal to his own self, because there's no way his full-face version would have approved of such a heinous switch in a character.
No, Jim, stop it! Harvey! Don't let Harvey!
Rose? Rose! Rose, give me those keys! Rose, give me those keys. Rose, now! Now, the keys! Oh, be careful, bro.
Okay, I've got to admit that I never thought that Rose would end up betraying Chris the way she did here in what I consider to be Jordan Peele's best film yet. Like, sure, her family may have been into the business of selling black people, but I always thought that maybe she'd be against this whole thing and was powerless against her family. Oh boy, was I wrong, or what. This crazy woman was actually the most crucial element of the whole operation. Seeing all those photographs with her and her exes was the first red flag, and then the whole give me the keys situation only made things a lot worse for Chris. It was such a haunting situation, and the fact that Rose was able to show herself off as this totally liberal woman spoke volumes about how people today also like to masquerade as social justice warriors when in fact they too have their own intentions.
No, you can't. You've already damaged him enough.
Okay, fine. Keep dropping all night.
Why?
We got a cop in my crew.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of getting that feeling too.
You know what? I thought I was the liar.
Hey, I can explain that.
Man, Martin Scorsese was in his Christopher Nolan era before Christopher Nolan even became famous enough for it to have become a meme. We all know how carefully structured The Departed was, and Marty followed it up with Shutter Island 2, so yeah, he really did like playing with people's heads during this phase. Anyway, Colin Sullivan is the rattiest rat of all rats, because the way in which he played Frank and even the police force as a whole is something to be studied. Of course, even Frank was an FBI informant, so he's no less of a traitor, but Sullivan takes it to a whole nother level. He would have even gotten away with the whole thing had it not been for Dignam giving him his just desserts at the end of the movie. Also, if you're interested, you should also check out Internal Affairs from 2002. It's a Hong Kong film, and The Departed is essentially a remake of it, but with Scorsese's flair.
Please.
All right.
Look, I'm sorry to even show up here like this, you know? There's no one else.
Just to dream about you.
You're a beautiful woman, Trinity. All I do is pull the plug here, but there.
You have to watch APOC die.
No!
I never really liked Cypher, even when he was supposedly on the good side, so I was extremely satisfied when he met his end at the hands of Tank. I can't believe this dude was ready to sell off his entire crew just so that he could live a lie in the Matrix. Cypher would have been such a loyal customer to VR products. I can already see him spending his entire life's earnings away on such purchases. Anyway, not only did he tip the cops on where to ambush Neo and gang, he was also about to end all of them just before the Tank could regain his consciousness and put his miserable life to an end. Seriously, man, even the anime otakus are more sociable than this guy.
Tell me.
Yes or no? Yes. No!
I don't believe it.
Long live the king.
Well, I've been supporting bros this whole video, but one of the most traumatic betrayals of cinema history came at the hands, or in this case, paws, of a brother. Yeah, I'm talking about the scene where Scar betrays Mufasa and throws him off the cliff to die in a stampede of wildebeests. God, we all knew that Scar was going to be the villain of the film, but for him to enact such a devious ploy on his own brother was shameless to say the least. Of course, the main reason why this lands at number 5 is because of what happens after the betrayal. Seeing Simba in the state when he saw his dad's body was so tragic and saddening that I couldn't stop crying when I saw it when I was a kid. Heck, I still cry whenever I see that moment as an adult as well. And if you tell me that you don't feel anything during this scene, then you're either lying or you're just cold-blooded.
Kill him.
There's a plane waiting for us to take us to Miami in an hour. I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Okay, you know what? Scrap that whole bros before whatever narrative. First Scar and now Fredo Corleone. You just can't trust anybody these days. You'd imagine Michael's elder brother would be looking out for him despite being an underboss with wife problems. However, he took the first possible chance he could find to betray Michael, and it could have literally led to his assassination. Of course, Michael would find out the truth when Fredo carelessly revealed to Geary that he was with Ola in a nightclub. That was all he needed to give Fredo the kiss of death and turn into the deadly mafia boss who established himself as an icon of the mafia genre.
Because they wouldn't give me an absentee ballot.
Aren't you afraid the Empire's gonna find out about this little operation? You just made a deal that'll keep the Empire out of here forever. I had no choice. They arrived right before you did. I'm sorry.
This is probably one of the most casual yet most devastating backstabs in the history of cinema. Seeing Lando turning his back on Han Solo wasn't the kind of twist I needed to see in The Empire Strikes Back, but hey, it is what it is. The doors opening to reveal Darth Vader will forever be remembered by all Star Wars fans back from 1980 all the way till now. The fact that Lando didn't even give Han a signal or anything of the sort was really shameful, considering he's supposed to be a true friend and ally. However, he simply led the crew to a shady trap and cemented himself as one of the most hated characters in the whole franchise.
We understand, don't we, Chief? He had no choice.
Just try it out.
We don't need any of your help.
Oh!
Oh boy, if Ned Stark losing his life was a shocker, then the Red Wedding was probably an Oppenheimer-level event for Game of Thrones fans. Walder Frey isn't exactly the most honorable man on the planet, but even then, violating the guest right was absolute sacrilege. All of this just because Robb Stark chose to marry someone else instead of Frey's daughter. Man, the reasoning behind this attack just makes it look a whole lot worse, doesn't it? The way they go for Talisa Stark's unborn child first was straight up demonic to say the least, and what followed after was the most heartbreaking and tragic display in the entire show. Nothing really topped this when it came to surprising the audience. We were all prepared for the worst whenever we'd tune into a new episode after that.
I'll find another. Mother.
The Lannisters send their regards.
Commander, contact your troops.
Very good, sir. I think you'll be needing this.
Thank you, Cody.
Could there ever be anything more impactful than Anakin Skywalker turning over to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader? The Jedi Purge in Revenge of the Sith was definitely a horror show, but seeing Anakin take the lives of those kids was the hardest thing to watch as a Star Wars fan. Yes, we do get a lot of context after watching Clone Wars, but nothing can ever excuse what he did here. It's such a devastating moment, and it instantly classifies him as the main villain in a series that was primarily showcasing him as the hero. And not just that, this eventually leads to the birth of Darth Vader, one of cinema's most celebrated antagonists. It's really messed up if you ask me, but hey, that's also the same reason why this is the #1 betrayal on my list. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video I know you're going to enjoy.